Hi, welcome to the
Kelly.
pod.
Thanks for having me.
Just diving right in. Whenever we start, I always love to hear from your own words, like your background. How did you become a planner? What called you to the wedding industry?
I want to say it stems back to childhood.
It's so interesting. So many people say that they knew really early on that they had this kind of creative force within them.
Yeah. So growing up, my parents owned a family restaurant. For a number of years, we lived on top of the restaurant. Wow. I was there all of the time. Like the school bus drops me off at the restaurant. So I feel like from a young age, I was very involved in food and beverage, of course, customer service, hospitality, crafting experiences. And then also seeing my parents work so hard at their own business was always inspirational and always made me feel like I really wanted to carve my own path. So going on to university, I went to school for PR, and any successful PR campaign, there's a lot of different facets that go into that, events being one of them. So I really was drawn to the event side of things. I started working in corporate and brand events and launched Nulink Events while I was still in university.
Oh, wow.
We did all corporate and brand events up until the pandemic. So I would say that was kind of a big turning point for our business. I think everyone in the events industry felt that. In every industry, no matter what you were in, you felt something, during that time. But for us, like the corporate and brand events came to like a screeching halt. They didn't want to have obviously any sort of liability. So there was no even like, let's do an event for 10 people or whatever whatever was allowed at that time. So we launched home experiences.
Oh, cool.
And that was where we would go to people's homes and set up these little experiences for their family or just those people that were in their bubbles. So we did these like outdoor movie nights and pool parties and picnics and just whatever we could do to kind of keep alive at that time. And that really kind of took off into a second wing of the business, which was the private events. So then we started doing birthdays and showers and weddings. And now that everything's back to normal and full swing, we're balancing the two. So it's definitely been a gradual journey, but something I'm really happy to be in. This is definitely the industry I belong in.
So brand events and corporate events and weddings, like even though you're planning and you're organizing and you're creating a vision, like very different customers.
Oh, absolutely.
So what do you like about weddings or brand events? Like the difference between the two?
What I love about events in general, and kind of my philosophy at looking at events is no two events are alike. You might use the same framework for an event, but I love that no matter what event we're doing, whether that be a corporate event or a wedding, we can make it different and really work to the client's vision and needs. I find with corporate clients, they understand how events work and they kind of let you run with it. Whereas on the wedding side, a lot of times this is like the only event that they've ever hosted in their life. So there's a lot more hand-holding, education. That
also really, anxiety.
Yes,
right? Because they want it to go right and they feel very personally invested in the outcome because obviously it's their moment, their day.
Exactly. So yeah, I think it's really just like working with the client and what their individual needs are, what their vision is, and then just trying to make that come to life.
And you've worked with a lot of incredible brands. Are you able to share some of the brands that you've kind of worked with on bringing, brand events to life?
Yeah, we've worked with Ferrari. We've worked with Brunello Cucinelli on the luxury brand side.
That's like ultra luxury.
Yes.
Both of those.
I love it because they're very particular about their brand and love to make that translate into an experience for their clients. On the personal side, we've worked with the Bieber family. They're an amazing people to work with, and we've done some fun events for them. So it's always something different.
That's a pretty juicy roster of clients that you've had. How do these companies or individuals find you? Like how have you grown your business and how do people find you?
That's a great question. And there's no like one specific answer to it. I think it really takes a lot of time. And really putting your all into each event and making it the best that you can make it. And from there, naturally There's word of mouth, there's referrals,
People
social media, people who attend the events ask who put on this this party. So there isn't like one, sure way to get clients. It's really just, keeping focused on making the event the best that you can make it and making sure that the experience is incredible. And from there, like naturally more business comes through. And you know what? A lot of times it takes some knocking on doors as well, especially in like the corporate side of things. Like you need to knock on doors and introduce yourself and show your work and, present to them what you can do for them. So it's just a little bit of everything.
So you didn't start your business focused on weddings, but that has kind of they found you.
Yeah, exactly. We get asked to do weddings quite a lot. We don't always take on weddings. It's has to be the right client, the right vision. It just needs to feel aligned because we are working with you for about a year and it's the most important day of your life. And I don't take that lightly. I want to make sure that we are on the same page. We can execute exactly what it is that you're looking for. And yeah, weddings are different in the sense of, like we said, they're one big day and there's so much pressure on it. And it's really, it's fun to be involved in weddings as well.
So you mentioned your ideal client. Like, what does that look like for you?
I mean, it's always great when you get creative freedom because I love the design and the experiential side of events. So, I mean, my ideal client is when they come to me and they're like, run with it. This is what we want. Here's the budget, go. I mean, it's not always like that. Yeah. And I don't mind really educating along in the process too. It's like you hire me and my team because we're experts at what we do. So if we can educate you along the way, and we will always tell you if, you're set on something, it's not a good idea. We will express that. Yeah. And it's not just yes, yes, yes to everything that you want. So my ideal client would be really someone that we can like work in tandem with and collaborate on the process and really make it the outcome that they're looking for.
I think high trust is like the most important thing. And especially if you're working on the brand side, like brands come to you because they trust your aesthetic. They trust your ability to execute. And just by nature of weddings being a stressful, emotional thing, sometimes it's hard for people to have that trust. And that's why your portfolio is like, that's like your Bible. Like, look what I've done. Relinquish control. Let me do my thing. Exactly. I got you.
Yes, exactly.
So you mentioned your framework of how you plan, right? So you said you have the same framework. Like, kind of talk through someone who's like planning, like what goes through your mind when someone comes to you and you're like, okay, I got to plan an event. Like, what's your framework for planning?
Well, I always explain this is not like an overnight thing. This is a process. An event is a life of its own. Mm-hmm. So really trusting the process, things are going to change along the way. Mm-hmm. But in general, we have something we like to call the artistic journey. So we start off with really getting to know the client and what their ultimate dream is for this event. From there, working on the venue ideas, the mood board, getting into the design process, the services, the entertainment, all the way down to logistics, production, and execution. So we are full service. And there's multiple touch points along the way where we meet with our clients and kind of let them know what we've been working on and, how we suggest moving forward.
I love that. I mean, you talked about this artistic journey. So do you have then your like dream team of vendors that you love to work with, or do you like curate different vendors for different events? Like kind of what's your personal process?
It's really all about the specifics of the event. A lot of things we do in-house. We've worked with a number of vendors. So of course you naturally have some go-to vendors, but also like we're always looking for like new vendors, like creative things that we can intertwine into events. So we're always keeping our eyes open for that. It's really just about tailoring it to the specific event. Whenever we can do things in-house, we love to do that as well.
So full service, a lot of people don't fully understand what that means because there's full service for, full service planning, but you're doing soup to nuts, like the entire ideation through execution.
Strategy, all the way through to design, production, execution. With the brand events, we always do, an end postmortem reports. We're getting together and kind of assessing how the event went, what was successful, what could we improve on for the next event. So it's a start to finish journey. And we're working with you in that process all along.
And what would you say is your favorite part about the process? Because you sound like A-type, very detail-oriented.
Very detail. I feel like you have to be in this industry. You have to absolutely be very detail-oriented and love the space. Otherwise, you would just go nuts because there's so many things flying around all the time.
I find that some planners are more the operational, like they're more like the planning as far as logistics. And then there's others that are on like the creative side who are more like the design. But it's very rare when you find someone who can do both and do them very, very well.
I have to give kudos to my team as well because we work together. Okay. But I love a little bit of both. Yes. Being very detailed on like the execution, I think is just as important as like coming up with a really dreamy, incredible design.
And in that process, like what is your favorite part? Are you more the creative or are you more the ops?
More of the creative, definitely.
Start with the inspiration.
Yes, start with inspiration. I always love to see like, how can we make this different from our last event? Like if we did something with our last event, like I don't want to do it again. Even if like a client's like, I love how you did this, like this event, like I want to do something similar. Like we'll pull on inspiration from that if they really loved like the essence of the event, but I don't want to do the same thing twice.
Well, when you said that you work with a number of different vendors and you're on the hunt for that, that's kind of the vibe that I got. Because sometimes when you go to certain vendors, you're hiring them for a specific aesthetic, a look. You're getting and a lot of, I would say, old school event planners, that's essentially how they operated, right? Like you were getting a one-stop aesthetic, like that's it. And I think what's unique about your business and your work is that you can look at the different events and be like, they're totally different, but there's a through thread of like, details and experiences that make it so awesome.
Yes.
So like when you're working with a new client, right, and you're talking about figuring out that essence, like what's that creative process like? Are you creating mood boards, surveys? Like what's your creative process look like?
It's definitely a journey. First, like I want to know the client in and out as best as I can. So we will get to know them on every level. I'll go out with them. Like let's go have dinner. Let's go have coffee. And I want to get to know you and the things that you love and the things that you hate as well. So I really want to understand like what are their favorite places? Where do they love to vacation? What is their interior design like? Kind of understand what their unique aesthetic is. And then from there, the process really does start with like pulling different inspiration. And it's not just from like, Pinterest and photos, but I look to like architecture and different textures and patterns and photography that's, not just event related, but that has an aesthetic and a feeling when you look at it and seeing like, how can we translate that into the event?
So are you presenting them with like a mood board and saying, did I get you right? Is this it?
Mood board and specific design elements that we want to include in the event. 9 times out of 10, they are on board with it and we've hit the nail on the head and that's always great. And we can kind of move on to the next step of the process, which then is sketching it and bringing it to life. So we will always sketch and give renderings of, the key elements in the event. So they know exactly what to expect and they know that they're going to show up and it's not going to be something, completely off brand or what they didn't sign up for. So we'll show them the sketches. From there, we'll do, edits and revisions. And then from there, we look at, what are we going to produce in-house? What vendors do we need to bring on board? And then translating that vision to all of the partners that we're going to work with to execute.
With a lot of your wedding clients, are there ever any like elements of surprise that you'll kind of bring in?
You know what? Yes, I will. what's funny is I find that when we're doing an event or a wedding, they're like text me being like, send me pictures or like, how's it going? And I'm like, nope, I'm not sending you anything because everything looks like a complete disaster.
Yeah. Until 20 minutes
comes
before.
together. Exactly. So I'm not going to freak you out by sending the complete mess that's in here right now, but it's all coming together. It's all just assuring them that it's going to go off perfectly, and just making sure that they enjoy their moment. They're there to enjoy their day and not worry about what is going on with setup and how it's coming together. So I do like to leave like the final reveal as a surprise. There's no photos.
There's no progress shots.
No.
Well, it's so funny you say that because even with Loverly, we produce these kind of small influencer events. You're going to check out one of our events tonight. Excited for you to stop by.
I'm so excited.
But I still, even though I've been in the industry for 12, 13 years now, I still get anxiety.
Oh yeah, that's
when it's
normal.
like 20 minutes before the event.
Yeah.
It's like, people are going to be here in 20 minutes. And it's crazy how it literally still looks like not together until the final 8 minutes. It's like you're lighting the candles, you're, adjusting the flower, whatever it is. And then it all comes together. But I mean, there's
kind
real.
of this mad dash in the last hour, I would say, for me anyway, where I am tweaking the smallest little details, but for me, it makes a difference.
Oh, it makes such a difference.
Like turning the candle left instead of right, because that's what makes it look better, is it makes a difference in the overall look and feel, I feel anyway. And
well, advice, if you are having your wedding and you decide to come out and take a peek, don't. Just don't. Because it's too stressful.
If you do, just understand that there is a method to all of the madness and it is coming together, and not to worry about the small details that you see all out of place. That would be my biggest piece of advice.
But it's a full production, right? Like people don't understand that when you're doing an installation, you're starting from nothing.
Exactly.
To some just building walls.
Exactly. In some weddings, you may have 50 plus vendors on site, each of them handling the aspect that they need to handle. That's why I always advise, if you can, hire a professional, because
for sure,
there's so many different details going on and you don't want to be stressed out with that on your big day. You want to understand that it's all going to come together. I think having a platform or looking to a platform like Loverly is incredible because you can see, all of the different vendors that you might want to bring in. You can really get a lot of inspiration. There's, reviews on different vendors. So it's really great to have that resource and kind of work hand in hand with your planner to kind of make that come to life.
Totally. We try to tell couples, when you're setting your budget, I know you think that you can plan it yourself and you think that you could save the money on that. Mm-hmm. That is not the place to save. You need an expert who is there to manage the logistics. Even if you want to do the design elements yourself early on,
absolutely.
For at least the month before to hand over your vision. I make the joke, you don't want to be taking a phone call from the baker. I have the cake. Where do you want me to put it?
Oh my
while
gosh,
you're getting your makeup done?
I know. And those are the things you don't really think of. Brian's
Nobody thinks about
this is going to be so fun. I get to go do food tastings and go to the floral shop and pick out my favorite flowers. And that is the fun part. And that's the part that your planner will include you in on. Yeah. But leave the, the production, the logistics, the execution to the professionals. And I say too, yes, it is an investment, but when you're hiring the right planner, they're actually saving you money. They
save you a lot of money, yeah.
Time and time again, I could say I have paid for my services tenfold with my clients because there's certain things that I can read through in a contract and say, you know what, you don't need this, or certain elements that the venue includes that we can tie into, or just negotiating to make it work within your budget. So there's a lot of, ways that planners actually do save you money and time.
And there's a lot of expensive mistakes that you can make.
Yes.
If you don't know
Very expensive.
What you're looking for.
Yes.
It's pretty wild. Recently, I was involved in an event where, it was in Texas where weather is normally perfect. And I know planning 101, you need to have a contingency plan for weather, right? And I was like, you know what? Why don't we just why don't we just get quotes on tents just in case?
Right.
Just
so
in
expensive.
case. And they're so expensive, but also they're more expensive if it's 48 hours out for an event.
They get you on the emergency need.
And thank God that we thought about it because it did rain.
Yeah.
And it needs to be tented.
You never know.
It's so wild.
You always have to have like plan A, B, and C.
And especially for something like a wedding where it's like you can't redo.
Exactly. And a planner can help you navigate all of that. And really, like I mentioned, like just keeping the process, like the fun elements of it. Like,
so it's not like work for you, but it's
not
more
work
fun
for you. And it really is a full-time job. Like you've got like, you're like, okay, I'm doing like, my actual full-time job. And then like every night up until the wedding, you're like stressing about the wedding where like it doesn't even become fun for you anymore.
It's so funny because I just look at the data of people using Loverly. And for all of you brides and grooms, mostly brides, y'all are planning during the work hours.
Yeah.
9 to 5. I see you guys on the site. So yes, you have a full-time job and then you're also planning your wedding during the day. So if you want to save yourself.
Distractions. Yes.
It's a real, like, I think the most recent data was like, they're spending like 300 plus hours planning when they're doing it themselves.
Oh, a wedding is hundreds of hours. And that's what like you really have to explain to the client too when they're, questioning what the investment is and if it's worth it. It's like, it's hundreds of hours of time. And if you want to take that on, of course, go ahead. There's a lot of brides that fully take it on. Yeah. But it is stressful. And it's like, you really want to, it's like so special, your wedding, like enjoy it, live in the moment. You don't want to get the call from the baker. Yeah. Like bring someone on to help you. It's worth it.
So you've done some pretty large scale productions. What is one of like the biggest like builds and breakdowns that you've done? Like how many days leading up to an event?
I want to say 3 days. Leading up to the event and then like a day to break down, we did this really special celebration of life. And we did this full ceiling installation with 30,000 twinkle lights. And we built an art gallery, a memory of life. So you walked on entrance, you walked through the gallery and you kind of walked through her life. So you saw kind of like
goosebumps.
You got like the childhood images and we had like, life-size cutouts of like her when she was pregnant, like leading into like all of these like special moments in her life. And then you walked into kind of this really like angelic feeling room. So that was, I would say that took, a lot of time just because there was a lot of like construction in that. But yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful experience. And I'm like, more people need to celebrate their life like this.
Wow.
It was happy. Like everyone came and they celebrated her life and it was a true celebration. It wasn't a funeral.
How long did that take you to plan?
We planned it about a year in advance.
Oh, so we knew that this was coming.
Yes.
Okay.
We knew.
I was like, that sounds like
she had actually passed away during COVID. And then, yes. Okay. So we had a year in advance. But honestly, we have turned around events in record speed. Like I never want to say no unless it's like really unrealistic.
We're not encouraging a last minute situation.
We're not encouraging it, but it can happen if it needs to happen.
Yeah. No, it's true. I talked to my sister, Lila, who, she does a lot of, she works a lot of the bachelor crew when they're doing, so helps curate their vendor. And so a friend of mine was getting married and she had like a 3-month timeline. And she was, I love you so much if you're watching this, Joelle. She was stressing. She's like, oh my God, I only have 4 months to plan. And she's like, I need this, I need that. And I was talking
it's all too familiar.
Yeah, you know how it is. So I was talking to my sister. She's like, Kelly, people plan events in like 3 months. Like you can do it. Like it's just a different speed that you're doing things. How quickly you have to make decisions is a little bit faster.
That's what it is.
But there are vendors available and you can adjust things, like maybe do it on like a Thursday, right? If you're like coming up against a close, deadline, you're gonna have to like maybe opt to a less popular day of the week.
Right. There's always a way to make it work. So don't be discouraged by the timeline, but, obviously the more time, the better. Then you get to enjoy it even more, the process.
Yeah. And some people really do enjoy the planning process to the point that when the wedding is over, there's
like,
such
what do I do now?
Yeah. There's such thing as like the wedding blues. They get depressed afterwards.
Yeah.
There's almost that hangover of going into all the details, all the moment. And then when it's over, you're like, now what?
Yeah.
Well, then you got to throw like a really good baby shower, I guess.
Yes.
And then a first birthday, and it goes on and on.
That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. So we're in a similar season in life. I have not yet had a wedding. I just had my over-the-top engagement party.
Beautiful.
I've been engaged for like 4 years, and people always ask me like, I'm like, I can't even plan because I'm like so just like decision fatigue. And when it's what you do every single day, it's like hard to like commit to a style, a vibe, a thing.
Oh yeah. The hardest event I planned was my wedding.
Okay.
Because of that.
So that's where I was going with that. I'm dying to hear about your own wedding and how you kind of navigated that, because you were in the event space. You were
stressful,
yeah.
but enjoyable and rewarding at the same time. For me, I was set on having our wedding in Greece. I was born in Greece. I spent summers there. I just had the most amazing memories. And I just really wanted that like Grecian outdoor natural vibe that Greece brings. So for me, it was like, if as long as my husband is on board with doing Greece, whoever can make it can make it. Like, we had a lot of friends and family that couldn't make it.
It's a far trek.
It is. It's a far trek. So we weren't expecting anybody to.
Which also is low key nice as well.
Yes, it cut the guest list number down quite a bit. And it was just so special. It was intimate. The people that were able to make it like really
Did you end up getting local
it.
help, or did you do it all yourself?
I did majority of it myself and got local help for the day of, which was, again, you don't want to get a call from the baker. Yeah. But I was on site. I spent the morning on site making sure that everything was in the right place. I couldn't help myself.
Yeah.
And to me, that's how I wanted to spend my wedding morning. Like, I didn't want to spend it with like, my friends getting ready. Like that wasn't my ideal way to spend the wedding morning. I wanted to be on site. I wanted to see all of the pieces come together. And then I went off and got ready with my mom. But the planning process, again, it was during COVID. So I actually never even saw the venue, did everything from their like virtual walkthrough. But I trusted the space.
Brave.
I knew it was going to work. And it was honestly everything we dreamed of. I couldn't, like, there was nothing I would change about that.
So which Greek island was it?
It was in Athens.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Amazing. And how many people did you end up having?
We had 90 people.
Oh, so it's still a pretty good size.
It was a good size for destination. And I feel like destination weddings are kind of a trend right now too. And I mean, if you can do it and your family's supportive, it's nice. But if not, like a local wedding is just as beautiful too. It's really about the people that are there, like first and foremost over anything else.
So which vendors did you bring in and which ones did you source locally?
Sourced majority of them locally. I did bring in like all of like our stationery. We got like custom linen napkins embroidered with each guest's name. So brought those in, brought in an audio guest book. There was like whatever I could fit in the luggage and the extra luggage I brought. And then everything else was sourced locally.
Amazing. So you found a local photographer?
Local photographer, local florist, violinist, fireworks, everything, all of those key like big pieces that I can't bring in my carry-on. Yeah. That was all, sourced locally.
That's amazing. So now do you do a lot of destination weddings?
I'm working on a destination wedding right now. Like we'll go wherever the client wants us to go. So we've done corporate events all across Canada, some in the US, working on a destination wedding right now. So I love like working in a new space. I think that that's always really exciting and fun. And if it's authentic to the couple and that's where they want to, have their wedding, I'm there.
I love that. Is there anything that's on your bucket list of like where you really want to do an event?
I mean, I would love to do more events in Greece because being from there and kind of understanding the lifestyle. And it's just so beautiful and picturesque that you can really create such a beautiful experience there.
My fiance is Greek, by the way.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So what are you thinking?
I've been looking as you're talking, I'm literally thinking,
let's get the wedding in Greece.
So Greece was on my vision board of what if we were going to do it, I want to do it in Greece. There's a lot of Greek Isles though. There's a lot I mean, we were even thinking about our like European summer vacation. I'm like, oh, let's go to Greece. It's like, if you go to Greece, that's the only place you're going because there's so many islands and places to go.
There are. You can't, lock in Greece as a one-time trip.
No.
It's multiple trips, especially if you really want to see it in its entirety.
Yeah.
So don't get overwhelmed by that. Kind of narrow it down to like what would be like my top like 1 or 2 islands.
Yeah.
And then you have to visit the islands that are like in that surrounding area. So
Yeah,
you're not going to one that's like in the north and one that's in the south, and you're traveling
do a little ferry for like 2 hours or whatever.
Exactly. And then just narrow it down. Be like, for this trip, we're going to go to 2 of the islands. And just so you're not so stressed out trying to see it all in one trip.
Well, I'm going to have to talk to you about some of your favorite vendors, because I'm so impressed that you found everything locally. Granted, you are a planner. This is what you do all day long.
Yes.
But I love the idea of a Greek wedding, because it is that experience that you can give your guests of like a once in a lifetime, right? It is a trek to get there.
It is. I feel like it's also on a lot of people's bucket list, where it's like, if I have an excuse to go to Greece, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So, a nice, like hosting the wedding there, I think a lot of people are excited about that. And don't knock off Athens off your list, because there's so many beautiful areas in Athens. And then from there, you can go to the islands, right?
Yeah.
Because in order to get to the islands, you have to stop in Athens, right? So, and something to note, if you are hosting your wedding in the islands, you have to bring in everything on ferry, because a lot of the islands don't have like furniture you have to bring in. A lot of your vendors are going to be coming in from different parts of the mainland. So something to note.
Florals.
Exactly. You might get lucky and find a florist like that's in the area, but a lot of the big items have to be brought in. Furniture, like rentals being a big one. That is mostly all brought in by ferry, and you are looking at a big cost for that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It's similar to, I honestly did not even think about that, but when you were mentioning it, it's the same thing as a lot of people who have like at-home weddings or backyard or at like a venue that's not really a venue.
Right.
Right. Have to bring in all of these things. And
I always like have my opinions about that too.
We'll share them. Tell us.
Because like on one hand, the venue is honestly the single most important decision of your event, whether that's the wedding or any other event that you're hosting. And a lot of venues, yes, they may be beautiful and picturesque, but they are not built to host 100 or 200 or 300 people. Yeah. So you are bringing everything in, and the expense of that can be astronomical, way more than if you were to, contract a venue that is used to hosting events. So things that you wouldn't even think of, like bathrooms.
I was just about to bring that up. To rent nice bathrooms, surprisingly, it's a cost.
Oh, it's a cost.
And if you want the really nice ones, they're like sometimes they're like $4,000 or $5,000 for like one stall, and you got to get like at least 2 or 3 of them.
Oh yeah,
so $15,000.
That's just
bathrooms.
One aspect, and then you've got even
generators.
Like generators and the kitchen. Is the kitchen space, or do you have to build out a kitchen for your catering team? And then let's talk about staffing too. The venue doesn't come with staff, so then you have to bring in all of the staff. And how is everyone going to work together in tandem? So
people don't even think about trash cans. You need to rent trash cans.
So 1,000%, if you are hosting a wedding at a venue that doesn't come with any of these things, you need to have a planner. Oh my gosh, it can just go so terribly wrong. Yeah. And then, but it does have this like magical feeling too. If you're like doing it in like a castle somewhere, and it's just those things you need to just know ahead of time like what you're signing up for.
Well, that's why a lot of beautiful venue spaces will not want to host weddings, because they know it's a different vibe, right? And they don't want the wear and tear. They don't want, like, especially like historic venues, like they don't want you to hang anything on the walls.
Right, yep.
Like there's all of these rules. And so honestly, like any advice I would give is like, to your point about the venue, make sure they've done weddings before. Make sure that they're comfortable with that, or you have a planner who's worked at that space.
Yes.
Because the surprise, like the venue is like, oh, absolutely not. You can't bring in a generator.
Exactly. There's so much red tape with it, and that will just make you go nuts if that's what you're dealing with for your wedding.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And at our engagement party, which was at my parents' house, which we had a planner for, and one of the things which is really surprising is we did twinkly lights, like a whole, like it was like 1,000 strings, right? Yeah. Like it was just, a vibe.
Beautiful. It's romantic.
Yeah. But the generator situation. Like I didn't even think about that. And our planner brought it up. Like, you're going to need a generator. I was like, for twinkly lights? Well, it's like, it's not just the twinkly lights. It's the DJ. It's all of these kind of other power elements that are happening
at the same time.
And so again, if I didn't have a planner and I'm in the industry, I wouldn't have thought about that. Right. And so those are the situations where in the middle of your event, if the power goes out, that is an event killer.
Absolutely. And then what, you're going to be the one running around trying to deal with it? It's
calling home, trying to get a generator at Home Depot on the day of your event. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah. But I do think like, we've hosted events at private residences many times, and there's something really special about that too. Yeah. Because it's not just like a banquet room. You've got this like natural beauty around. It's like, it's very sentimental for you if you're hosting it, like you said, at your family's home. So, don't be discouraged by hosting, at a venue space that isn't typically a venue. I think that that's really like fun and memorable too. Just know what you're signing up for.
100%. Like, you have to go in eyes wide open. Speaking of unexpected costs, when you are producing events, what do you find that clients like are surprised by, just because they you're not used to.
I want to say almost everything. They're like, I didn't know it was going to be this much. Like, and here's the thing, it's not like one specific line item blows out everything else. It's every single line item together at the total cost is what it is. It's like, you think like, oh, this aspect's only like $500. That one's like $3,000, like, not that much. But then when it adds up to like six figures, you're like, how did we end up here?
How do we get here?
The venue is going to eat up the majority of your budget and your food and beverage, and that's expected. But from there, unexpected costs come in like how we mentioned, if you're hosting off-site, like, needing a generator, needing staffing, needing washrooms, like all of those aspects. Even things like photo, video, like you have to understand it's like for your wedding, it's more expensive than if you hired like a photographer and videographer for your birthday party. Yeah. Like they're there all day long. They're capturing every angle. There's so much time with like the editing process. So everything is naturally more expensive for a wedding. So you may think like, I've hosted events before, I know what these things cost, but you want to add like a double or triple on the price tag for when it comes to a wedding.
So this is such a controversial topic, but couples like whenever anyone I know gets engaged in planning, I hear this all the time. They're like, vendors just charge more when you say the word wedding. And I want to debunk that because you kind of just talked about it, like how a special event is very different than a wedding. From your experience, right? Can you just break down and explain why weddings are more expensive?
Well, I mean, we mentioned that like in the beginning that a wedding is hundreds of hours to produce. Whereas if I'm doing a birthday party, it might be like 50 hours or, something along those lines. So it's just, there's more to a wedding. There's more time involved. There's more time on site involved.
There's multiple events too. You have your ceremony, your reception. There's like different moments throughout the day.
It is like 3 events wrapped into one. It's not just like, depending on, how you structure your wedding, but it's not just, a dinner party. Like there's so many different aspects to the wedding. So that naturally comes at a higher price tag.
Yeah, I just find when people say, oh, they just charge more because if it's a wedding, it's like, no, that's an experienced vendor that understands all the nuances of planning an event of this caliber.
Exactly.
And so when they're like, oh, am I just getting ripped off or they're charging more because of that? I'm like, no, that's because they know what they're doing and they know what's going to take to pull off something exceptional or something that is, up to par with,
essentially you get what you pay for
100%.
in that sense. But there's a lot of ways to really make your wedding special without breaking the budget.
Tell me more.
It's just really about, well, first and foremost, I think you have to really talk with your partner and nobody else at first and setting in like, what is it that we want? Because I think like social media has gotten everybody crazy in so many different ways, and weddings is one of them, because you're looking at all of these like incredible weddings, and the ones that tend to go viral happen to be like 6 or 7 figures.
I mean,
some of them are just really unrealistic for your average couple, right?
People don't realize when they're looking at the floral, it's like, that is like a $90,000 floral budget.
Yes. Yeah, so they think like,
we're guilty of it. We post all of these amazing weddings on Loverly just because people love to see it, and they're so inspiring.
Inspirational, and that's the business that you're in, and it's like the design side and all of that, but it does come at a cost. And I think, first and foremost, you have to talk with your partner and think of like, how can we make this authentic to us and nobody else? Like, it doesn't need to be your traditional ceremony, cocktail hour, reception, after party, like if you don't want it to be. Yeah. I think a lot of couples get caught up in this, well, this is what we have to do, or listening to too many people. They're listening to their parents, their friends, their siblings, and everybody has a different opinion. So cut out all of the noise. Think of what it is that's going to make it authentic to you and your spouse, and go from there. And if that means, we're not big drinkers, so why would we have a premium bar for our wedding? Yes, everyone else might enjoy it, but for us, like, I would rather have like, a couple of specialty mocktails and some wine. There you go. That's like one way of like making it authentic to you and not going overboard on the budget. I think it's also really like chic and nice to include like personal touches, things that like aren't very expensive, which is like a place card instead of just like you sit at this table number, or like personalizing the menu to their, food choice that they've already selected. It's like you went that extra mile to create something and show appreciation for your guest without breaking the bank for it.
It's basically the same cost, it's a little bit more time.
Exactly. And yeah, again, like just on that note of like making it authentic to you, like just, cutting out the noise and feeling like what it is that we're going to be happy with, not what everyone else is going to be happy with, or doing things that you think you have to do because it's like trendy right now.
Speaking of trends, it's always such a touchy subject. Some people are like, love to talk about trends, don't love trends. What are things or elements of weddings that you are really excited about, that you're excited to either produce yourself or that you've seen that you want to do?
I'm so excited about, like, we kind of just touched on this, but like weddings that are non-traditional. Like, if you want to do like a cocktail party with food stations, like that to me is like so fun and memorable, or like having like different types of entertainment throughout the night. Or if you're really into food and beverage, like making like a beautiful like dining experience with like coursed meals and wine pairings, like that's really exciting. I think.
What kind of entertainment are you into?
Whoa. Oh my gosh, I love like all different types of entertainment, but I feel like right now we're like working on a wedding where they want to have different entertainment pieces like every like 30 to 40
so
minutes.
Fun. I love
so
that.
Fun. It's fun to just be like, like, and it's surprise and delights your
100%. Oh my God. I love. For the event that we're producing, last minute, my team was like, I'm going to kill you, Kelly. We couldn't accommodate it, but I really wanted to have a harpist. I love a harpist that plays like Jay-Z.
Yes.
That is just, I love.
Yes, something that's like unconventional.
Yes, it's like traditional, but with like a weird twist.
A twist. Yeah. I think it's just really, it's really important to like tie in your personality into the wedding. And then your guests are going to love that. Like you can feel all this pressure, like, well, we have to have like the best bar package and the best food package. And, we have to have a 10-piece band because that's what,
Which bands are super expensive. Yes. People never know how much they cost, but that is something that you might be surprised by.
So like cutting, those pieces and just, making it what you want it to be. I think like now it doesn't have to be so traditional. It can be whatever you want it to be. And then your guests, when they come, they're going to be like, this feels like the couple. Like this is fun because it's so them.
For sure. Do you know what entertainment? I was at a recent event that I loved.
What was it?
It was a mentalist.
Oh, interesting.
This guy was next friggin' level. Like, oh my God, he like took my phone and basically asked me, he's like, think of a celebrity that you have a crush on or whatever it is. And I was like, I didn't have anyone how to crush, but like the first person that came to my mind was Keanu Reeves. Not that I have a crush on Keanu Reeves, but he like came to my mind. And the guy had my phone, okay? And then he's like literally with my phone, pulled up the browser and was like, is this who you were thinking of? And it was kind of, and I was like,
no way.
It kind of spooked me out, but like, it was like such a random thing, but he
That's
was
so
going
fun for like
around.
The cocktail party or the after party. Like, and
this guy was
so
next level
too.
And it was really fun because there was like crowds surrounding him towards the end of the night. Like, and he was there for like 2 hours. It was such a hit. And it was a corporate event that I was at that they had, I guess, flown this like world-class mentalist in. I loved that. I thought that it was so interesting. I also have seen like live paintings where it's like, which I think is really fun as like a keepsake that people can like take home with them, having an artist there. But there's so many fun ways to create these little experiential moments that it's not even just like entertainment, like in the sense of like music, but like something for your guests to experience. And I feel like those are like the unexpected fun things.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, put some thought into like what is going to be fun for you and your guests and go from there. But I mean, we've seen it all when it comes to entertainment, like, having someone there that's like giving live tattoos or like, different like dancers and
I had dancing robots at an event.
Oh my God, I'd had that for my baby shower for gender reveal. So fun.
Did they like light up with the color?
Yeah. So we gave like confetti cannons to everybody in the color. We saved like our gender reveal to do it at the same time as our baby shower.
Oh, nice.
And so the room like lit up in blue confetti. And then after that, the robot came in and he was lit up in blue.
Oh my gosh.
And just started dancing.
Was it a tall robot?
Yes, like on stilts.
Yes. Oh my God.
And I was like saying to my husband, I was like, is this weird? Is this extra? Is this cheesy? But I'm like, no, it's going to be so fun. And it just got like everyone out of their seats dancing. Like, it's just something that's
you and
like,
I have such a similar vibe because at an event that I did, that's exactly what I did. I was like, we handed out, they weren't cannons, but they were like little glow sticks, right? With like, and then we hand them out to everyone. Starts like the music starts changing, and all of a sudden these like dancing robots come out. It was like such a vibe.
Fun.
It was so fun.
Yeah, and like, why not have that at a wedding? Like,
why not?
Why not? It's just make it fun, make it you. Think about that, and just cut out the noise of like everybody else's opinions and what you think a traditional wedding needs to be.
You've given already so many like little tidbits and such great advice, but is there something that you haven't shared yet that you think is important for someone who is just starting out their planning journey? What would be your advice?
Yeah. Well, again, I'm going to reference social media because it has a way of showing event planning as being like this really glamorous field. And it's like, oh my gosh, you get to like do cake tastings all day and like party for a living. In reality, that's, not what it is. It's a lot of behind the scenes work. Like if you see me on an event, like I'm running around, I'm sweating. There's nothing glamorous about it. So my piece of advice would be—
You're looking very glamorous right now.
Oh,
though.
Thank you. But yes, when you're on site, that's the only way to really realize if this is what you want to do. So my first piece of advice would be knock on doors and ask to volunteer for your favorite event planners or event companies. You can always use an extra hand on set. So if someone wants to come and volunteer and just kind of see the ins and outs of how an event is produced and brought to life, I think that's really important.
So if someone's thinking about DIYing it, you're saying first go and work an event to see if you can do it?
Yeah, or like if you want to get in the industry, if you want to be an event planner or DIY it, because you're going to essentially be event planning. See if you can go on site and volunteer with an event planner or an event company and really get the behind the scenes and really understand that this is, and be committed to what you're about to sign up for, because it's not just what it looks like online.
Your feet hurt.
Yes, they hurt. I feel like hungover.
Yeah,
yes,
totally.
Without a sip of alcohol, you feel hungover for a couple of days after a really big event production. So really make sure that this is what you want to be involved in. And then if it is, you're so passionate about it, you've done the volunteering or the interning and you've seen what it's all about and you want to go out on your own, start small. Ask friends, family, hey, can I put on, your next birthday party? Put your heart and soul into it. Show off your creativity. And from there, things will, one by one start to align.
It's so interesting that we both said The Hangover at the same time, because that is like most real thing of event planning. It's that you literally feel like you were raging all night.
Yes.
And your body aches and your brain aches.
It does. It's like, the days leading up to it are one thing, but then on site, like you're there maybe like 12, 14 hours. Like, and
There's
you're
also the
on
adrenaline.
your feet the whole time. There's the adrenaline of it. There's so many different moving pieces of managing the event and executing it. And yeah, you're exhausted. You're exhausted by the end. You're not there to party, that's for sure.
Yeah, you're exactly right that being an event planner is not meaning that you're attending the party.
Yes.
You are working them.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of work.
It's fun though. It's enjoyable. If that's where you're called to be, then I encourage it.
Are there any things in weddings or events that like you're ready to say like goodbye to? Like things that people are doing that you think you'd like to not see happen anymore?
You know what? I feel bad talking about this because I have my own personal feels of like event trends and what I feel like we're ready to say goodbye to. But if like the bride and groom really love that, like who am I to say
so
it's
there's no
out?
shame. There's no shame. But you do work on these over-the-top events. So a lot of events that you're producing are setting trends, right? And so if you're saying you're seeing things ready to kind of fade out, I'm curious to know what those things are.
A little bit over the Champagne Tower.
Okay, I knew you were going to say that.
Did you know
I had one, but
It's
I also
cute.
am over it though.
Yes, it's cute. Don't get me wrong. It's adorable. And we've done it. We've done the
hate
Champagne
champagne,
Tower.
by the way,
But I've
and I did
also
it.
seen now, like we just went to an event and there was like a charcuterie tower, an espresso martini tower. I like the rendition, you know? I just feel like, again, like don't do something because you feel like you have to because you've seen it everywhere. If you love champagne, you love the Champagne Tower, do the Champagne Tower.
Yeah.
But don't do it because you feel like you have to. You're seeing it everywhere.
I did it for the guests, but I personally am not a champagne girly. I'm like a ranch water, like vodka soda girl. But it was a cute moment. But then I was like looking back, I'm like, I wouldn't do that on my wedding. I got my photo.
Yeah.
I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I got it out of my system. And it was a cute moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. What else?
For desserts, I find it really cute to have like a little like cart bender, whether that be like a gelato cart or like making like those little mini pancakes on site.
Do you know what my dream is?
What?
A churro
Yes.
cart. I love churros.
So good. For my wedding, we did like these little mini Greek donuts.
Oh my
So
God,
it
what is
wasn't
it
a donut
called?
wall, lukumades.
Oh my God.
So
I
good.
love
And we had a little like
those.
mini like Euro stations. So I love stations.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
stations are fun and I don't think they really are trendy and go out of style.
Yeah.
Like, so if you want to tie in like a fun dessert element or late night snack, or even like do your whole wedding with stations. Like there's nothing wrong with that either.
This has been the Loverly Wedding Podcast. We are hosted by Kelly Khalil, produced by Shannon Dietrich and Jennifer Alvarado, edited by Terry Carmichael. Watch the podcast on YouTube by subscribing to our channel, and you can follow and listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, and every major podcast feed.